Happy New Year, America! Now give us your cash. That's the message you'll be hearing from Washington in just a few weeks if our elected officials are unable to come up with a solution to keep us from going off the so-called fiscal cliff. If a deal isn't struck by the beginning of the year, all American taxpayers will see Washington take more of their money. And they'll also see spending for our armed services indiscriminately cut by nearly $500 billion. The worst part of it all? Congress and the President chose to create this high-stakes game of chicken as part of last year's debt ceiling deal. And now that they've got a gun to our heads, they'll think we'll just roll over and accept their demands for more of our hard-earned money. The stakes of this debate are high, and that's one of the reasons we want to clear up some of the most common myths about the fiscal cliff. First, let's deal with President Obama's favorite phrase when it comes to the debt ceiling, a balanced approach. This is how the President refers to his proposal to address our debt problem through a combination of spending cuts and tax increases. On paper, it might sound like a pragmatic compromise, a little from column A and a little from column B. But research from the President's own former economic advisor shows that tax increases will shrink the economy and cost around 800,000 jobs. That's not only bad for your pocketbook, it's also bad for Washington's. Less money and fewer jobs means less tax revenue to address our debt. Another myth, that Democrats are serious about cutting spending. We've been down this road before. In 1982, Ronald Reagan made a deal with Democrats in Congress to cut $3 in spending for every $1 in new tax increases. The tax hikes got approved, but Democrats never bothered to cut spending. In 1990, President George Bush made a similar deal, with $2 in cuts proposed for every dollar in new tax increases. Once again, taxes went up, and the spending cuts never occurred. Liberals in Washington have proven they can't be trusted to keep their word. Finally, let's address President Obama's belief that higher taxes will help us shrink the deficit. This claim just doesn't add up. Obama claims only to want to raise taxes on those making over $250,000 a year. If he did that, the resulting revenues would only be enough to fund the federal government for 8 days. But even those projections are probably too high. History has repeatedly shown us that revenues actually increase when government lowers taxes. When they raise them, there's simply less economic activity to tax. President Obama is right to note that we're in a dire economic crisis. But his solution would leave us with fewer jobs, less tax revenue, more debt, and a shrinking economy. Haven't we already spent enough time going down that road? How about this solution instead? Politicians should be better stewards of our money, not take more of it. That's this week's Freedom Minute.